Thank you very much, Stephen. And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that obviously your feelings have been shown in that survey, and it will definitely give others a bit of food for thought of where you guys are really standing out here, and how we can come up later on to get some actions that we can put forward. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring our next speaker up to the microphone. He's a Herbert Kane producer and a contractor, and like to give you his problem setting and perspective on the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the microphone, John Board.
Thanks, Mick. Small world. We used to work together back in the day. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. I'm John from the Herbert. Some of you might have seen my name pop up from time to time on social media, engaging and sometimes starting or ending conversations on there. Forgive me if I'm a bit nervous. I haven't spoken in front of a lot of people since high school. I ended up writing my marriage vows bloody an hour before the wedding with a kid's crayon, but the only difference then I had a couple of beers, so I haven't had any beers today, so see how we go. Like many of you out there, I grew up in a sugarcane community and have been involved in our family farms from a young age. Roach growing by the age of 8, stick planting on weekends, moving irrigation pipes, all the coming of age stuff, which I'm sure everyone here has also had to do. Somebody not familiar with our industry may refer to it as child abuse or slave labour. Going to school in Ingham, I still remember about grade 3 doing a whole class project on the Great Barrier Reef. This would have been about the year 1999. Can't remember exactly, but the general gist of the project was that littering, rubbish were bad for the oceans, cigarette butts, plastic bottles, straws, oil spills, etc., etc. No one back then or today would disagree with that. What concerns me is 25 years later, I've got 3 kids going through primary school right now. And about the same age, they're coming home questioning me about my farming practices, fertiliser, agriculture and the reef. This flagged me as a major issue with our curriculum and also with the actual teachers themselves delivering this curriculum if they believe it themselves. Secondary school in Ingham, for me, there was also something that has stuck with me about the teachers and career advisors once we got to grade 11 and 12. 95% of them were telling all of us, go to university, get out of Ingham, there's no future here. That bugged me back then even as much as it does now, and I was determined to make a point and stay in Ingham and go straight on the farm. Life had other plans for me, and for a number of reasons, after finishing grade 12 in 2008, I ended up taking a diesel fitting apprenticeship in Townsville. This led to working on various different mine sites for some of the biggest mining companies in the world, meeting hundreds of different contractors and workers, working many different shifts, rosters, and under different supervisors and managers, and different work systems. So in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't go straight on the farm, as working away gave me a better understanding and a good idea of how the world worked outside of little old Ingham, you could say. In 2014, I returned to Ingham and began working for the local case dealership and seasonally working for a harvesting contractor. Like Charles, I had ambitions of owning my own contract and even borrowed the money to buy one. Thankfully, at the 11th hour, the owner decided to keep the contract for one more year. At the time, I was pissed, but looking back now, I think I dodged a bullet. I've continued working for a contractor still to this day, and although I do enjoy driving the harvester, I have zero aspirations of ever owning one. In 1997, the Herbert had just shy of 100 harvesting contractors. In 2014, there was about 65, and we thought it couldn't go any lower. In 2024, I think we're down to 48, and of those 48, there's only 1 or 2 actual contractors. The other 46 machines are farmers that own farms and just cut other people's cane because they've got to cut their own. Billet planning's the same situation. Every year there's less and less. Harvesting and billet planning as an economic investment is not attractive. I know a lot who are starting this season now off knowing full well by the time their maintenance is done and next season starts, there'll be zero profit made. They are nearly running the contracts as a community service to plant and harvest our paddocks every year. And thank God they are, but it isn't looking very positive for times ahead. Sometimes I wonder if accountants have a group chat going between themselves, saying things like, have you seen these idiots pouring all their money back into their businesses, not taking any profits for years on end? Financially, yes, farming sometimes can look bad on paper, but reliability of our harvesters is like 99%. So we're putting all our money back into it, but our reliability is there. Whereas the millers, although they're taking a profit, the reliability is not there. And I think you can sort of see, although we're not making dollars, the machinery doesn't break down like the mills do. Farming sometimes can look bad, but as we all know, it's a way of life, and it's our way of life. And I think that's one of the reasons we're all here today, to do what we can to continue this way of life, because it's a gift, not a given, that without changing something, there's nothing stopping our districts becoming the next Mossman. 2022 was the best crop the Herbert has grown in years. We knew it was out there, and we were all ready to go on the 1st of June. The mill didn't even start till the 13th of June. So before we even started, we were 13 days behind in my eyes. Eventually, when we got going on the 13th, there was a real buzz in the community. People hadn't seen cane in front of the harvester like this for years. The weather was looking promising and the price wasn't terrible. It had the makings of that 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 year gold at the end of rainbow sort of vibes. Fast forward to December 22nd. At 1 p.m, Townsville Bulletin is releasing a story headlining "Sugarcane harvest comes to an early end after rain washes out viability." Personally, this was insulting because of 2 days earlier, notified in writing, we had 7 days of crushing left. December 21st, so 24 hours before they called it, my dad got a verbal phone call, nothing in writing, to say last cane on the line 2:30 p.m. on the 22nd. So while we were still harvesting with 2 harvesters and 6 haul-outs on my farm until 3 p.m. that day, the Bulletin had already released a story with quotes from the then cane supply general manager and our local mayor on the crush already being finished. Then to add insult to injury, when checking my CCS and final tonnes of the 24th of December, I found out that Wilmar had erased all the remaining tonnes and area off the equity sheet. No record of the remaining area or tonnes left to be stood out in the paddock. And that actually just brought me back to that media release here. Before this thing even started, there was a media release saying how negative we were going to be. We hadn't even started. The media, like, we got to change that. That's my thing. How can they release that before we even fucking talk? As I said, 24 hours I didn't even know it was coming, but I just got some stats here where we are in the Herbert. So 2024, currently we've cut 5,900 hectares, 412,000 tonne. 2022, which was our standover year, we'd already cut 9,000 hectares and 800,000 tonne. So we're nearly 3,000 hectares short and 400,000 tonnes short today of when we left standover in 22. So it's not looking good for this year already. And then I went as far back as records would go on GrowWeb. 2005, today, 10,900 hectares, so nearly 11,000, as opposed to 2024, 5,900 and even 22, 9,000. 1 million tonne we'd crush by today in 2005. So that's just blowing my mind, because we're guilty of it ourselves in the Herbert. We don't sort of panic till November, but looking at those numbers now, we got to panic now. Like, far out, that's huge. So anyway, that was just my little bus homework. There's always been plenty to worry about as farmers, and that's part of the job description, is to be able to plan, overcome and adapt to whatever gets thrown our way. What's really disheartening to me is the misinformation that is fed to the media by milling companies about the actual issues with our industry. The media stories that followed the 2020 season were heavily focused on bad weather, lack of CCS towards the end of December, which was true for December, but not once anywhere did it say mill performance during the entire season was the reason we were cutting cane in December anyway. And I've just got one Facebook post here that a fella said to me, and we're all guilty of it as well, like 2022's been and gone, and until I searched up my Facebook, I'd nearly forgotten how bad it was too. But the fella says here, industry has to do an independent analysis of the 2022 season and lay it out in front of the milling companies in an organised and accurate manner and demand answers. Very serious situation that should not be forgotten or swept under the carpet. Good luck to those still trying to get their crop off. And I think that there should not be forgotten or swept under the carpet. We all just move on, oh, it's done, let's keep going, and that's wrong. We should not harp on about it, but not forget so quickly. Anyway, there's probably hundreds of hours worth of negative stories we could go on about all day today, but I'm trying to make it a goal of mine to not become the cliched whinging farmer, even though there is plenty to whinge about. Every day I try and find some positives in our industry, and in the Herbert there has been a slight personnel change within the CS&T department, and it's still early days, but these couple positive changes may snowball in the future to more. It's possible that they won't, but we can only live in hope. So some of the slight positives we got in the Herbert from other years where we've had next to none. Contractors were actually consulted in regards to rosters this year. Harvesting rosters changed slightly and we had a bit more of a choice. A lot of contractors, including my own group, have opted to work more days continuously but get 2 RDOs all year. Another small positive, 2 more day shift locos have been added to utilise as clean-up sweeper sidings close to the mill. A field logistics officer or cane inspector has been added with intentions of helping with estimate equity in the field. Intentions to add more of these people if the role's proven successful. And yeah, I've got some dot points here because I ran out of time. But yeah, social media, as much as I hate it, it's a good way to find out what's going up and down the coast quickly. Like back in the 90s and that, you wouldn't have had any idea what was happening in other districts. It's a good way to rev the troops up and that happens and then everyone gets excited and then it dies off and we forget about it. One other thing I've got here is mental health. I've struggled with mental health myself and I can see it coming in other people in my district. As young people with young families, it's disheartening and as farmers we work hard, we do, and we're good at it, but eventually you can crack and I hope it doesn't happen to people, but I can see from my own experience, I can see a lot of people in my district are going to have meltdowns, so it's not good. And yeah, I think that's about it. So thanks for listening. And I think today's forum is a great step forward into starting to control the narrative in our favour, but not really control it. My biggest thing is I want the media to say facts, not as we just see. I can't believe that still. That's not facts. We hadn't even started. So that's my biggest thing for the Herbert and as an industry is we need to get the correct message out there, even if it's not our message or the one we want, the correct one. So, yeah, thanks for listening.
Oh, had I known John was going to be the first one to drop an F-bomb today. But anyway, it's a great insight though, ladies and gentlemen, and we are, like we've touched on all day, we are all here for the same reasons and we really want to make sure that we get a great action plan together to take forward from here. I'd like to bring out our next speaker now. From the union's perspective, I'd like to bring out Liam Sharkey, the ETU organiser.
I'd like to start by thanking QCAR for the opportunity to come here today and discuss the perspective from what the mill workers are facing inside the mills. I actually haven't come up with a speech. I've just come up with a few notes that I want to talk about and highlight the issues that's been going on. So I'm Liam Sharkey, the organiser for the Electrical Trades Union. We've also got Nicole Friskin from the AMWU and Travis Phillips from the AWU in the crowd. And we have been negotiating the recent EBA, started back in March 2023, representing the workforce in Wilmar. So the main challenge that we're facing really comes down to one key issue, and that's the wages. These workers are that far underpaid, it's really starting to take effect. I mean, They haven't had a pay rise since December 2022. Over the life of the last agreement, they only got a pay increase over the life of 5.5% increases. In the same time they've got 5.5% increases, the award rates have gone up 18.73%. This has left these workers that far behind that I represent electricians, and I know what the electricians are being paid, and I can tell you now that the electricians in the Wilmar mills are currently being paid $10 to $15 an hour behind industry standards. Our members are telling us that they're not able to pay the bills. It's causing huge amounts of stress on the workforce. I've had our members come to us and tell me that this year the Wilmar wage is that tight that they had to make their mind up between getting private health insurance for the year or paying their weekly bills. Now in 2024, for a qualified electrician to not be able to pay their weekly bills if they get private health insurance as well is not acceptable. We've also had members tell us that by the end of the week, they're struggling to put fuel on their car to get to the mills. So obviously this is causing a huge concern in the mills, and we're seeing employers leave at a huge rate. There's just better money, huge amounts of money on offer elsewhere, not only outside if they have to travel, but also within these communities. So people are leaving the mills. They can't fill these positions. I mean, I can tell you right now at one of the mills here in the Burdekin, they currently have 7 vacant electrical positions which they cannot fill. So what's happening now is they're employing contractors. Contractors are coming in, they don't have the experience in the mills, they don't have the knowledge of the mills, but they're working beside the mill workers to get the numbers up. These contractors working beside the Wilmar workers are getting 2.5 to 3 times the money that the Wilmar workers are getting. So obviously it's leaving a very bad taste in the mouth of the Wilmar employees, and we're starting to see the effects of contractors and not long-term mill workers working in the mills now with the reliability of the mills. So obviously with our wage claim on the table, there's a lot of catching up to be done. We've also seen the profits that Wilmar have been making, that they have been spooking. Last year, 2022, they spoke about making just under $1 billion in profit. 2023, they boasted that they made over $1 billion in profit, and they're predicting an increase on last year's profits again this year. So what our wage claim really is a drop in the ocean compared to the money they're making, and it's an investment into the sugar mills because it will keep the long-term staff that know these mills in there, keeping the mills running efficiently. Because I can tell you now that our members are a big part of this community, they're passionate about working in these communities, and they're passionate about keeping the mills running. But they have been backed into a corner because they can no longer survive on a Wilmar wage, and they have told us that if we don't get the outcomes in this agreement, that there is going to be mass exodus from the mills. We're already seeing it starting, and it's going to continue, and then that's the real risk we believe moving forward. So a bit of an update on negotiations to date. It's probably have been seen in the media. It has gotten quite hostile. It's quite in an open forum now, but the negotiation started back in March 2023. To be honest with you, our dealings with Wilmar is they have not been negotiating, they have been dictating. They have been dictating to our workers, they have been dictating to the unions, and it's their way or the highway. And these workers are in the fight of their life, because if they don't get an outcome now in this agreement, while the sugar prices are high, while Wilmar are making record profits, then there is going to be no workers, very minimal full-time workers left in these mills. So Wilmar obviously have been trying all of their tactics that they continually do: divide the workforce, divide the unions, turn the communities against each other, and turn the worker against the grower. We predicted it would happen, and we've seen it happening firsthand. Now, the unions have been putting a lot of work in to trying to communicate with the growers' representatives, and I can tell you now that our members are a big part of this community, and every time there's a decision to take industrial action because they've got no other choice, the first thing that comes up is, how is that going to affect the farmers? We want to do the right thing by the farmers as well. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, as you guys are as well, but their challenges, by listening here today, that it sounds like the farmers have got their own challenges, the workers very much have their own challenges as well, and all the challenges seem to be coming from a common denominator. So moving forward with the bargaining process, we've agreed to commissioner-assisted bargaining. We agreed to commissioner-assisted bargaining last week, and that is going to begin next week. So pretty much what that is a commissioner from the chambers will come up, he will chair the negotiations, we'll get into the room, we'll put on the table what's still outlined, not agreed upon, and the commissioner will hopefully bring his magic wand and do his very best to bring us together. So we are hopeful that Wilmar will try not to be as dictating as they have been with a commissioner in the room, and we can look at what we need to do to close the gap and reach agreement. Thanks.